Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship in St. Paul, Minnesota. We're not meeting right now. We were going to merge with another fellowship, and they've determined to go on in their present building, which is very close by to us. And so we're not going to meet for a while here, at least for a few more months, unless something changes. And I'm shopping for a new building too. So a new place to rent. So we do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence, what's going on in the world. We try not to be disparate in our thinking, and we're Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Netanyahu. There are many prophecies regarding Bibi Netanyahu, and as of today, he lost his job. Bennett is going to be the new guy in office. So let's talk about the prophecies and let's look at what's going on. So over the last few years here, since 2019, the government's kind of fallen apart. And they had a general election back on April 9th of 2019, and then 2019 another deadlock, and then 2020 another deadlock, and so we've had 4 general elections. And back then it was Netanyahu and Gantz that were deadlocked. Now it's Bennett, and Bennett seems to have put everything together. So we've had 2019 a deadlock, 2020 a deadlock, 2021 a deadlock. And so there's prophecies about that. So we'll discuss that. 2020 was Rabbi Kaduri's prophecy correct? So we're going to discuss that as we move forward. So this is back a year ago that the government was supposed to be divided and fighting against each other, and we'll discuss that as we go through all of these prophecies. But right now, this is the new one. Lapid informs president. He can inform government, removing Netanyahu from power. Wow, that's amazing. So it's going to be Bennett running everything. And it's a strange coalition, okay? So Netanyahu is not happy about this, but that's life right now. So yeah, Netanyahu is probably done unless some miracle occurs. So we do the philosophy of the end of days. That's a picture of Bibi Netanyahu with another gentleman and Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, who we'll speak about. He was a Messianic Jew. He believed in Yeshua. So this is my commentary, but this happens to be from James Scott Trim, and I tend to agree with him. His secret is that many Jewish rabbis are well aware that Yeshua of Nazareth is the true Messiah of Judaism. He's spoken with many of them. I've spoken with a few too. They know the truth, but they fear that endorsing Yeshua, endorsing Jesus, would endorse paganism, antinomianism of certain sects of Christendom. So they don't want to be a part of that. And they don't want to come over for a ham-eating Jesus that hates Sabbath and hates the Torah. So they want to come over for a pure Yeshua, which means salvation. So that's why it's going to take some time for the Messiah to be revealed to them, and so just get used to that. So Kaduri is one of those guys back in 2003 that met with Yeshua, and he wrote his name down. There's his message right there that outlines Yehoshua in the Hebrew, and it's just interesting. So he predicted the Messiah would not come until after Ariel Sharon's death. So Ariel would be a lion, Ari, and that if they divided the land, that there would be punishment. So we're going to show you the punishments that have occurred. So once again, Kaduri died in January 28th, 2006, and he was one of the most renowned Mizrahi, Haredi rabbis and Kabbalists. Yes, he's a Kabbalist, and he believed in Yeshua, so deal with that. His age was probably 106 to 110. Very well respected. In 2006, he was hospitalized, and then he died on January 28th. An estimated 300,000 people took part in his funeral, and it's just amazing. They put people in the ground immediately, so on the 29th, the next day, he was in the ground, and that's very Jewish. So Kaduri received a blessing from Yosef Chaim, I'm not sure, 1832 to 1909, who was a leading Sephardic rabbi, an authority on Jewish law, which is Halakha, and a Kabbalist again. So we're going to have to deal with that, Also, he had a prophecy from Menachem Cohen. How about Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who was the Rebbe and of the Lubavitch movement. And he said that he would meet the Messiah before he died. And he did. So there's a picture of Rabbi Schneerson, the Rebbe, and then Moshe oh goodness, I'm blanking on his last name, St. Paul rabbi, and then there's Kaduri down below with the Rebbe. So so anyway, it's rather a wonderful situation when you get to meet the rabbi, meet Messiah, and that took place on the 4th of November of 2003 in a mystical vision where Kaduri spoke with the Messiah, and the Messiah revealed his name to Kaduri. And so it's very interesting. Kaduri gave a message in the synagogue on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, teaching how to recognize the Messiah. He also mentioned that the Messiah would not appear to Israel until sometime after Ariel Sharon's death, which is in 2014. So you link all of these people together, prime ministers and prophecies. And then in 2005, George Bush forced Ariel Sharon to give away Gaza. And you have seen Gaza in the news here. Well, Ariel Sharon had a stroke right after that in 2006, and then he died in 2014. So he was on life support for all of those years. Now, these are 18 points that Yitzhak Kaduri talked about. And so the rabbi met the Messiah about a year ago after he foresaw the wave of natural disasters that hit the earth. The rabbi met the Messiah in a vision and therefore was able to also predict the coming of the disasters which we're seeing, because the spirit of Messiah is the spirit of prophecy. That's Revelation 19:10. The soul of Messiah is conceived inside a person of the Israelite nation. Indeed, a person is conceived by the Messiah and contains the spirit of Messiah when he meets Messiah, the rabbi's definition of being born again. Point number 3 from Kaduri is the Messiah draws to the Torah those who are removed from it. The true believers in Messiah do likewise and also draw others to the testimony of Messiah. That's once again Revelation 19:10. And he said, anyone who will teach and do this will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. That's Matthew 5:19. The union of the two Messiahs, Messiah's son Ben Yosef and Ben David, has taken place. Indeed, the two Messiahs are one. They are one soul in Jewish tradition. The suffering Messiah, son of Joseph, precedes the coming of the victorious Messiah, son of David. And Kaduri said, it has been revealed to him these were one. Point number 5, the rabbi was told that he would be privileged to see Messiah in his own lifetime, which indeed had taken place. In 1990, Rabbi Kaduri had a meeting with Menachem Schneerson, which would be the Rebbe and the Rebbe of the Lubavitchers, and Schneerson blessed Rabbi Kaduri, saying that Kaduri would not pass from this world until he met the Messiah. And so that occurred. And it's rather interesting that it did occur when it did. So Messiah will lead Israel in pleasant and loving ways to practice Judaism. Messiah will be Torah observant Jew. As it is written, the Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and strength, and the Spirit of knowledge. And that's Isaiah 11:2 and 3. So that's the Messiah. Point number 7, his words he will gather the outcasts of Israel from all over the world, and he will lift up a standard for the nations and assemble the banished ones of Israel. That's Isaiah 11:12. Many will find his words and expect to be his words to be easy to accept, and he will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and will with the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Isaiah 11:4. His words will be fulfilled by the very fact that he had been uttered by him. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and the breath of his mouth all their host. Psalm 33:6. The quote speaks of the divinity of Messiah as the incarnate word. That's John 1. As the leader, Messiah will not sit in some fancy office or bureau. He will sit in the bureau of God, of Hashem. He will convey his words through different vessels, and saviors will go up to Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. That's Obadiah 1:21. And it's interesting to see Obadiah in the news a few times lately. There's another person that came out, Ken Johnson, that talked about Obadiah and the prophecies that match up with that. So just very interesting. Purity is destined to come to the world through the same vessels that sin entered it. Thus, since sin came into the world through a vessel, a woman Eve, so will purity come by a vessel, a woman. Number 13, his rule will be free of all lust. All righteousness will be the belt about his loins, and faithfulness the belt above his waist. That's Isaiah 11 again. His true test will not be his ability to perform miracles, but the very essence of his being and his actions. He will act as a simple Jew. His entire will be to do the will of Elohim, of God, and God gives him help. He is very humble. He has no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should be attracted to him. That's Isaiah 53. And so this is usually applied to Israel and not to Messiah. 15. Messiah does not distinguish between the secular Israelite and the religious one. He stretches forth his hand to all, and even to Gentiles. So that's Isaiah 11:10 again. Number 16. Accepting him is easier for those who do not keep the Torah and the commandments. Those who regard themselves as righteous are proud, and that is an abomination to the Lord. The people who will walk in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwell in the land of the shadow of light will shine on them. That's Isaiah 9:1. So number 17 and 18, Messiah will reveal himself to the individuals and not necessarily to those who excel in Torah. For the strong do not need a doctor, the righteous do not need to repent, but the sick and the sinner, see Mark 2:17 and Luke 5:31, as it is written, mercy I have not desired and not sacrifice. So when he revealed, many will wonder, what is it? Is it he? And who has believed our report, and who to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For his generation who considered, Isaiah 53 again, and I will pour upon the house of David and the dweller of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication, so that they will look upon me whom they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as the mourning for an only son, and they will weep bitterly over him like the bitter weeping over a firstborn. That's Zechariah 12:10. So that relationship is deeded towards Israel and not to Messiah, again, based on Isaiah 53. So in the end of all of these 18 statements by Rabbi Kaduri, the Messiah is the Word, and the Torah will be upheld by him. Literally, these are the two pillars, the Word and the Torah. Upheld means pillars for the root to stand, which is Amidah, and that's in the Siddur. So that's a very important prayer, prayed twice a day, the Amidah. And the three pillars in the Godhead, in the Tree of Life, the word in Aramaic is Memra, and has a deep Kabbalistic meaning. So you could argue that he's a Kabbalist, but yet he believes in Yeshua. So just deal with it, as I always state. So one other thing, there's another prophecy that I mentioned. So there is a passage in the Torah called Acharimot, after the deaths of not Moses, but I'm blanking on the high priest, Aaron's sons. So so basically, after the death of Ariel Sharon, and that's when the land was divided in 2005. He went into the coma in 2006, and then the date of death was January 11th, 2014. So anytime after that, the Messiah would come. So 6,000 days, 6,000 years, Passover 2020. A lot of people were predicting it. You can see to the left there. But these guys, these rapture guys, are always predicting dates. So once again, here's his note again, Yehoshua, and his dates of life, and a little bit of information about him. And then here are some of the prophecies they said. Kaduri reportedly wrote that on the eve of the year of 5780, that's 2020 in the Hebrew calendar, the year of corrections, there will not be a government in Israel for an extended period. The various camps will be quarreling, much without a decision on either side. And then on Rosh Hashanah, which was last year, the Jewish New Year itself, they will fight in heaven. That sounds like Revelation 12, the holy side against the side of evil, and God and his entourage will determine between them. And this is all I can say, for here I swore not to reveal more secrets and hidden things. And so, once again, 2020 is basically 5780, 2021 is 5781, and 2022 is 5782. So here's the calendars. You can see the new year going from Elul to Tishri for each of the 2 years here, and what we expect to see in 5782. So was it last year, or will it be next year? I don't know. We'll see. Rabbi Kaduri spoke very little, so it was very important to understand precisely what he intended. One day he was taking questions, and someone asked when the Mashiach would arrive and whether there would be signs that would precede his arrival. The rabbi answered, when there will be elections, but there will not be a government. So just get used to that. This is 40 years ago. That it's very mystical, and we've seen that over the last few years from 2019 forward. This is from Parsimon's Covenant, an ancient book by Kabbalist Rabbi Sasson Hai Shoshani, which made reference to a period when there will come one day, or come one the day that two ministers will win the government in the land of Israel. Both their names will be Benjamin, Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, and then it was Benjamin Gantz. Benny Gantz, and neither of them will succeed in establishing their government or kinship. So this is a guy, he's quite a rapture guy, and he does Revelation chapter 12.com, and he also said, this is the Tractate Sanhedrin 98a, when he cites, when will the Messiah come? And he answered, I fear lest ye demand a sign of me, that my answer is correct. They assured him, we will demand no sign of you. So he answered them, when this gate falls down, is rebuilt, falls down, and is rebuilt, and then falls a third time before it can be rebuilt, the Son of David will come. Which gate, we don't know, but that's what he stated, this rabbi here. So Jose ben Gisma. So Micah 4:9, now why dost thou cry out aloud? There is no king in thee. Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. So we're going through the birth pangs right now. So anyway, it's just interesting that it seems like once we determine who's going to be the prime minister, well, that's the gateway to the Messiah based on the texts and the prophecies and other things like that. So once again, there's the note, there's the meeting between Bibi Netanyahu and Yitzhak Kaduri, and it would say that there would be fighting in heaven, probably the year before. So, Bibi has known for many, many years, many people have prophesied over him, do not divide the land. So he said back in 2015, Jerusalem won't be divided again. We'll see what happens with the new prime minister coming in. So Bibi was prime minister from 1996 to 1999. He divided the land, he lost the PM job. He became prime minister again in 2009. He was re-elected in 2013, again in 2015, basically 5 terms as king. And so he says, I ain't going nowhere, but he's going someplace. It looks like he's going to lose his job. So Jonathan Cahn has been talking about prophecies from Dr. Robert Mawari, and he's from South Africa, that God warned the PM not to give up the land in Israel, or he would lose power, and that happened. So he prophesied before 1999, I believe. And Netanyahu was pressured by Clinton in 1998. Long afterwards, he, divided the land and the government collapsed and he was removed from power in 1999. Then Dr. Mawari met with ex-PM Netanyahu and gave him another word in which God said he would be restored once again to power, but he was not to give up the land. God also promised him that he would be prime minister for the restoration of the tabernacle of David. That is a sukkah. That does not say beit, which would be house, which would be a building. And sukkah would be more like a tabernacle, and that would be a very simplistic, probably a sheet over their heads. But it would be the offerings. So according to him, that could mean the temple. I don't think that's what it means. If he heard the word tabernacle, it probably means tabernacle. And it does say Sukkah la David in, I want to say, Amos 9. So Mike Evans has prophesied too, that Benjamin Netanyahu would be prime minister twice, and he would be the prime minister during Israel's greatest crisis. Well, we haven't hit that yet. So this was back in 1982. Mike's a nice guy. He's a dear man. And he knows Hebrew too. So when Bibi's father called him a moron in Hebrew, he knew what that meant. But he was right so far. He said 2 times. And so it's just interesting. So once again, the birth pangs are going on right now. We'll go into the tribulation eventually. Then the Great Tribulation. I don't know what happens when Netanyahu leaves office. So basically, we've gone through Seal 3. We're waiting for Seal 4. That would be 1.944 billion deaths. And so to lead it this way, be blessed, but I have no idea what's going to happen with Netanyahu leaving office. I know the prophecies with Netanyahu. I have none for Bennett. I have no idea of what's going to happen right now. It's just very, very interesting to see this occurring and to realize we're in the end times and people like me have no idea of what's happening. So we just wait and watch. Be blessed. Bye-bye.